Awesome. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our November social media breakfast. I'm Corinne Burgermeister, one of the board members here. We're so excited to have you with us today. If you are tuning in for the first time, let me introduce you. We are Social Media Breakfast. We're a nonprofit that focuses on education and networking events centered around social media and marketing. We meet the third Wednesday of every month, which is today. You can find us online across most social media channels at SMBMad. And one other great thing we offer is scholarships. So if you're looking to go to a conference or work on some professional development, head to our website and check out those opportunities. This is a photo of our lovely board. We are a hardworking, great group of people who like to have fun, and these are the people that make all our events happen. One of our board members, David, we want to give a big congratulations to him and his family. They just welcomed a brand new baby girl. So yay, David, congratulations to you. If you are looking to get involved with Social Media Breakfast, maybe as we close out the year, or definitely as we head into 2022, we are looking for speakers, team members, sponsors, and nonprofits to feature in our monthly nonprofit spotlight. So check us out at smbmad.org to see how you can get involved. Looking towards December, this upcoming month, we will not be hosting an event, but instead we're going to turn our focus to the community. We will be highlighting some of our Digital Dream Grant recipients on social media, talking about the things they've done this year. We'll also be having some great conversations in our Facebook group about places you can volunteer and other winter-related things, which is a great segue. So if you haven't already, join our Facebook group. We are Social Media Madison Masterminds. It is a great place to connect with other like-minded marketers, solve any tough questions you have, and just stay connected with the community. Next, we want to take a minute to thank our sponsors for their support. We are a nonprofit-based organization, and they keep our events free for you to attend. So next, I'm going to throw it over to Andy with Dream Bank.
Thank you so much, Corinne. Good morning, everyone. My name is Andy Frisky. I am a senior dream curator at Dream Bank. Longtime supporter of Social Media Breakfast. And for those of you who aren't familiar, we're hosting a vast majority of these in person, which sadly, I don't have any updates to report as to when that's going to be. I know a few board members and patrons have asked me recently, and I don't have anything to share. But we have been putting out tons of great content, even through this the pandemic, all virtual. So for those of you who aren't familiar, Dream Bank is a free community resource that's put on by American Family Insurance. And everything we do ladders up towards the inspiration and pursuit of dreams, in large part by removing barriers for folks. So we have our daily event series, which for those of you who are familiar with Dream Bank are probably the most familiar with those. What I want to talk about a little bit today, though, is our Dream Academy, which is something new. So we have our daily event series, which is our 9 distinct event series, which shout out to Josh Clemens, spoke yesterday in the business series. But our signature event series are a little bit more of a deeper dive and are meant to build off of our daily event series. So the Dream Academy, it's a skills-based virtual learning experience that is designed to help you overcome the most common obstacles in dream pursuit. So it's a classroom-style program that will partner with distinguished experts and professors that will guide through a curriculum consisting of video lectures, guided discussions, individual homework, and really creating a shared community for you to learn within. Each session is meant to address a specific obstacle that commonly gets in the way of pursuing our dreams, and then gives you the tools and skill development to overcome it. So a little bit of context, we've had a session on time management run by a local professor and author, John Zaratsky. There's another session too that's going on right now. We have one coming up that's going to be self-led on first-time home ownership. Some really, really cool stuff coming up with the Dream Academy. Just wrapped up our Dream Summit too. So thank you for everyone who was in attendance for that and was able to make that such a great success. We may be doing the I can't wait. The Digital Dream Grant next year. So keep an eye out for that. But lots of great stuff on the horizon for Dream Bank in 2022, and hope that you are all able to be a part of that. And with that, I will kick it back to Corinne.
Awesome. Thank you, Andy. Yes, the Dream Summit was amazing, and Dream Academy sounds cool. So I encourage you guys to check that out too. Next, we want to give it to James, who is with Powder Keg, our sponsor.
Awesome. Thanks, Corinne. And good morning, everyone. So my name is James Roloff. I am the Sales and Marketing Director here at Powder Keg Web Design. Like Dream Bank, we've been a sponsor of Social Media Breakfast now, I think, for like 4 or 5 years. So we've been in the community for a long time. Always good to kind of be around marketing people, people that care about good websites, good design, digital marketing. So if you don't know who Powder Keg is, we are a custom website design and development company. So we really specialize in custom website design development. We typically do WordPress websites, so very easy to use on the back end side of things. But like I mentioned, we really focus on that custom aspect of things. We don't use templates or pre-existing themes, things like that might make your website kind of clunky or just not branded and professional for you. So our specialty really is website design development. Another big thing about us too is our entire staff is in-house. So we don't outsource design, we don't outsource development. You work directly with our team at Powder Keg. I should note too, we do a lot of nonprofit websites, including the Social Media Breakfast websites, but as far as like the niche of who we work with, we do a lot of nonprofit websites. So we have a lot of experience in the realm of a nonprofit and kind of working with different audiences, donors, people who might use you for your services, all of that kind of stuff, and making sure that your user experience and design matches up with those needs. I guess the last note I have for you quick is that we do have an educational resource part of our website. So if you go to the Powder Keg website, go to our navigation, hit education, we have a section of our website we call Powder Keg University. And that's where we have a lot of really good, useful free resources for prospects, clients, people in the community, whoever it might be. We have webinars, we have guides, we have an e-newsletter. So if you're looking just to kind of improve your digital marketing knowledge, your website design knowledge, I definitely recommend checking out Powder Keg University. Thank you.
Lost my video. Okay, I'm back. Okay, so the last person we want to talk about is our nonprofit spotlight, which for this month is Little John's. They were also one of the recipients of our Digital Dream Grant. Little John's is a Madison nonprofit funded by Chef Dade Heidi that takes an innovative approach to increasing food security using efficiencies of scale and turning food excess into food access. The organization saves hundreds of thousands of pounds of food donated rather than going to local landfills, and transforms the excess into delicious and nutritious foods at little to no cost. Currently, Little John serves 6,000 meals weekly to people of all ages throughout Dane County, and they are working to become a pay-what-you-can restaurant, commissary kitchen, and military veteran culinary training program. So go check out Little John's, they're doing some great work. Last, we're just about ready for our presentation to begin with Rowan. We'll be talking about big goals, small budget, social media, and nonprofits. I just want to read Rowan's intro so you guys can get to know her a little bit. Rowan Childs is a mom and founder and director of Madison Reading Project. She's also the economic development director for the Village of Mount Horeb. She also served on our board from 2015 to 16. So we're glad to welcome her back. Rowan has a zest for life and a passion for helping others. The founder and director of Madison Reading Project, she saw a need for quality books for local children 7 years ago. Started as a pilot program, the organization has grown today into providing over 240,000 books at no cost to children, educators, or schools. Today, the organization runs with help from extraordinary employees, volunteers, and donors. So everyone, will you please welcome Rowan? Rowan, I'm going to switch over now. You can take over.
All right, thank you so much for the welcome, and really excited to be presenting today, especially as Corinne mentioned. I was a former board member and also just learned so much in all of the sessions that I attended, either in person or on video. So seems, I don't know what serendipitous maybe that I get to present, and in our book center, which is where I am hosting this morning. So you can see this is one of the murals at our center that's behind me. And that's exactly what we do here. So I'm gonna share my slides, one sec, while everybody grabs their coffee. There we go, I think we're good. All right. So I am excited to present today on social media, nonprofits. It could also be just as good information if you're just starting out as an entrepreneur or if you have a small business. We started with a budget of 0 and slowly have worked our way up. So hopefully some of these tips will be good information for you. Yes. So I wanted to start out with a little bit of information about Madison Reading Project, just so you can get an idea of how this all started and why. And this was actually, this particular quote was something that I got in a fortune cookie way back when, probably about 8 years ago, as I was just sort of delving into reading and books for kids. And I got this quote and it just really spoke to me, and I taped it onto my laptop at the very beginning. I didn't know what was going to happen, but had it on that laptop until I think the laptop died. And I do think a lot of nonprofits, particularly, it may speak to you, where I feel like you're often a small team trying to do a lot of things and you're really passionate about the cause. And I think social media helps you find other people who are just as passionate about your cause or can see the importance of it. And that photo that is next to that, that is actually probably might have been April of last year, right in the sort of beginning of the pandemic, with gloves on and a mask. And that book that I'm holding up, We Shall Overcome, I feel like was just, it's happened to be on the sorting table, and it definitely, some of these kids' books and messages that we were trying to give to kids during the pandemic definitely spoke to us. So it's all part of our messaging and definitely our cause. So our mission statement is connecting our community with free books and literacy enrichment programs that ignite a love for reading. And that is right at the cause from the very beginning, was how do we provide books and kids, or books to kids, when often they don't have any books at home or a very small home library. Actually, I'm going to back up one second. I apologize. And that's at the beginning, that was definitely something I was trying to figure out as I was trying to help my own kids with some reading, or why they didn't want to read. And it really got me thinking about what happens when other kids have the exact same problem. Do they have books at home? Are they able to get to the library? Are they able to find a reading tutor or anything else like that? And it really, you know, got me thinking about what happens when you're not at the right reading level at school, or you get behind, or you're really discouraged with reading. And if you think forward through, you know, if that's only in elementary school, junior high, high school, and beyond, literacy is just a really important life skill that will carry you ideally through everything that you want to do and experience and enjoy, and where you may end up in life. So reading and reading for kids is extremely important. And as I dug into some of that information for the state of Wisconsin, or even for Dane County, the literacy rates or statistics are quite staggering in the discrepancy between low-income children, between different races, between where they lived or which schools they went to. And I wanted to do something. I was just one person with a 0 budget, but really wanted to try and figure out how I could help this situation. So we started off with a pilot program for a year and a half and stayed at Salvation Army after school program and learned from the kids and the teachers and the director there what we could do, how we could figure out how to scale up and provide books and programs to not just 30 kids, but perhaps thousands of kids. And with that, I'll sort of continue on with these slides. Social media was a huge part of how we were able to grow, not only in our impact of providing books, but gaining volunteers, book donations, eventually being able to fund our own book bus, many different things that we've been able to share our reach, especially when you're just a small staff or one person. It's something you can only, well, some people know a lot of people, but starting out, I felt like that was just something I just slowly experimented with and was able to grow our name and our brand and exactly what we do and continue to refine that. So as I had mentioned, some of the things that we specifically do, we always want to show and provide joy to kids around reading. We have found that if kids are able, ideally, to select the books that they would like themselves, that there's more pride and joy in that ownership if they're able to get a book and write their name into the cover. Those are just some of those small things that a lot of us just take for granted. You see a book that's featured online or your friend has it, you order it on Amazon, or maybe you order it online through the library, but not everybody is able to do that, especially if you don't have a lot of extra funds. And you see other kids perhaps reading those books like you want, just like those Dogman books that the kids are holding up in the photo. So we really want to continue to provide these interesting high impact books to kids. And in addition to kids, obviously families and educators just as much, because they're the ones who are with kids on a constant basis. Just to give you an idea, as Corinne mentioned, slowly over the years, initially we gave out 300 books our very first year, and then we continued to grow. And then the following year I said, what about if we tried to give out 5,000 books? It seemed like this crazy big idea. And just this past year during COVID, we were able to give out 67,000 books in 1 year, even with COVID. And I think the thing that I think really resonated with people as we've slowly been growing our giving numbers and working with thousands of kids every year with educators and families, is that it really resonated with people that kids didn't have books at home, especially during COVID. And it was really important that kids had materials when they were online all day for school, that they actually had some physical things to read and touch and hold in their hands, or just to look at the pictures that are in there. So we were really grateful again for social media and for our reach to be able to purchase and provide that many books. We do take book donations, but we had paused them last year in the midst of the pandemic for several months. And we were still able to do this with the help of our community. This year, we're up to about just over 65,000 books. So we know that by the end of the year, we'll be way beyond our number from last year. We're gearing up to more than likely provide at least another 12 to 15, even plus books yet this holiday season, as we partner with a variety of different groups to provide books for the holiday season to kids. Some of our main programs, I'll just give you an overview, and we'll get into each of our literacy programs. This is our Big Red Reading Bus. It gives us the mobility to really bring books to any location, whether that's a free public event like movies in the park, it's to a school, it could be to a program partner, to apartment buildings, the farmers market, kind of you name it, block parties. And it helps us bring all these quality books and excitement. Right when we pull up, people just automatically get excited. Kids get excited. They can see that there's images of kids holding books on the outside, and it just gives us that credibility, especially to people who don't know us, that we are there. We're providing free books, and kids can come on board with their parents or without them. This is at our center. So every year we provide books to teachers anywhere where they're able to come and pick them up. So we have a wide range of teachers in the Dane County area, all the way to Milwaukee or even Beloit. And we provide them with free educator books. So those sometimes will look different than books that kids will pick out. So they could be about specific topics. This year, we really focused on diverse books for educators and continue to do so. This year in particular, we only really mentioned it for 1 week. And the waiting list, just to give you an idea, with social media and just sort of how much it resonated with teachers needing books because they often have to purchase them themselves. We ended up with over nearly 400 teachers signing up to get in line to get books for their classroom. So we're still working through the very end of that wait list, but it's definitely something that we would love to continue to grow and know the importance of having new books in classrooms. So we will continue to grow that and be able to promote that on social media. Little free libraries, you may be familiar with those. You may have seen little free libraries all around your neighborhood or in different cities. We have a little free library program where we provide anyone with little free library books, but we also place them and stock them in very specific areas and neighborhoods. What we do when we bring in book donations that people have given us, we sort through them all. If they are at a level that's just a little overloved and not quite new or like new, they go into a little free library stack. And those are all still sorted through to make sure that they are good content, that they're not completely worn or torn. And those are shelved in our little free library area. So if people want to pick up a stack of little free library books for kids, they just need to make an appointment. And we also have volunteers who go out and fill little free libraries that are in need of books, especially for kids. This is My First Pages is something that we just launched. It's a pilot program with Reach Dane. They have over, I think off the top of my head, 28 different locations throughout Dane County. And they have kids aged 1 to 4. And what we did with this partnership is to provide the Reach Dane students that are enrolled at their daycare and school with 10 books, at least 10 books and literacy enrichment programs throughout the year. So this is some of the photos of our volunteers helping us prep for all of the bags that go out to children. And you can kind of see just a couple of those different books that are there. They're all sort of selected very carefully so that they were in the right languages of what the child was speaking or at home. And also some of this particular content. And it'll be up to 1,000 children that will receive this every year for 5 years. And just had to show you some of our book giving photos. You can see some of our stuff on the left-hand side out at a school with some of the books that we were providing for kids to pick out. And on the right, these are some happy kids inside of our book bus. And that's what we do every day, and we love to do it. These are some of our photos from the summer programming. In the summer, our staff nearly doubles when we're out with our reading bus, and really like to be out and about with kids, partnering with a lot of different groups, whether it's Boys and Girls Club, MSCR, and really like to engage kids and get them excited about bringing books home. And finally, this is our book center where I'm at today. We've been here just since February and have been able to, with this bigger space, really give us a little bit more room to work and to have more books and ideally volunteers now a little bit more safely than we could earlier in the year. So we're excited to welcome people back, and you can see some volunteers there over on the left. I think those were our first pages volunteers. So finally, getting to the social media portion specifically, some of the different things that I've learned along the way that you can do with a small budget. And it really sometimes comes down to that creativity or ideas that you can source together with yourself and your colleagues or your friends, and really try and make it unique to you and your cause. It's kind of a fun, what I thought would be good is sort of where we started, which was one person, a pilot program, lots of ideas, one cell phone, and no social media. And as I started the pilot program, initially I wasn't really talking about it. I was just working in this pilot program, and people started reaching out to me saying, hey, I heard about what you're doing. You know, do you have a social media page? Which I didn't. So started putting that together and just some of those basic marketing items that you might need if you're really starting out from scratch, which is at least give yourself a landing page, whether it's a website with your contact information, enough information for someone to find out when they hear your name, or at least put together and make your Facebook page, your Instagram page, just so that people are able to find you or tag you, so that when they Google your name, something comes up. It seems really basic, but it is really important just to give yourself something or a little bit of credibility when someone types in your business or your nonprofit, and then slowly grow from there. Even if you don't want to do Twitter or LinkedIn, I still think it's important to have that page there, either so that you can claim it, but also, again, just for someone to look at it and say, okay, they're not on Twitter, but it lists their website. Now I know where to find them. So to today, we've grown to over 10 employees and hundreds of volunteers. We take a gazillion photos of what we're doing. We have a much better idea of how to brand ourselves, how to show people what we're looking for in regards to books, and to grow our engagement from when people tag us or when we're tagging them. I feel like in this sort of era of us taking so much photos and content and sharing, it's important to try and just stay on task or really just focus on that. And it can be overwhelming when it's just a limited stuff or one person who's trying to figure this all out. It could be extremely daunting to that, but it is all possible. So an idea of different things that you might need, I think, if possible, using your own photography, even if you're not a photographer, or if you don't think you're creative, I think looking at some different ideas of how other people might be doing it. I think looking at, type in a whole nother region of the US or even outside of this country and look at just some different ideas. Social media as a whole is free, or just, putting together your website, and just trying to take a look at just some of the things you actually have that you don't have to spend a lot of money on, especially when you're at a low budget. So some of the things in particular, there's a picture of Deirdre, one of our staff. We all hold up pictures of books constantly, and it's a nice way for us to show perhaps like the books that we really love personally, or the book of the week or the month, or is it a particular theme? And that's something that we constantly do. You'll see staff, volunteers, kids all holding books, and it seems very particular to our brand now for people to be holding up a book and it's recognizable. And that was one of the things we were able to do as we figured out our journey in social media. So perhaps for your own nonprofit, there might be something in particular that's a good visual clue to people as to what you're doing or how to make your images more interesting to people. Being authentic, I think that's something when you're able to use your own images, or if it's volunteers, to figure out, you know, what's a stock image and perhaps people have seen before. So we've really tried hard to have our own photos. Sometimes that can be tricky when it is with kids, so we have to have a variety of allowances from parents and schools, etc. But I do think that's really important. Getting an idea of photos, you know, like what people react to or not. I think it's worth, you know, yes, getting the content out there, but also taking some time to figure out what people did or didn't react to, what really resonates with people. We know when we're posting really important information, you know, the image that is attached to it or the headline is just as important to get people to click on it or to open it. So we try and spend quite a bit of time figuring that out versus putting so much effort into that content that no one is ever able to see. And lastly, I think if you're starting out, you don't have to do it all. I would say pick the one that you're most comfortable with and or the demographic that you're trying to reach. So if you know that a lot of your supporters or followers are on LinkedIn, for instance, then I would suggest that you don't use Twitter or you wait to use that just because it can be overwhelming, you know, depending on how much time and effort you have. Some of the trial and errors I just mentioned is figuring out what people react to or not. Likewise, trying to figure out your voice or tone of how you speak. We've spent quite a lot of time here at Madison Reading Project working on how our voices, whether it's in a newsletter or on social media, on our website, we try to keep our language very simple so that anyone can understand that, or it's just very clear to people how we're speaking. And often we also speak about the joy of different things. So the joy of books and reading, the importance of it, why we have very particular types of books. And we also try to share that with all of our employees and volunteers as well, so that it's consistent throughout all of our messaging. This one I found, I had to go back into the archives a little bit. The square image was from way back when, when we're at Salvation Army. And again, it kind of made me laugh because we're holding up books and we still do it today. But it definitely resonated with a lot of people. We were trying to show what we do and also show a lot of the books that we got for the holiday books. And these types of images we know are really successful. We can recreate a lot of different things like that and continue to do that. And then the other image you might be wondering what that is all about is I started testing out back then what, you know, sort of this demographics and promoted posts or boosted posts, and started trying to figure out how to get more volunteers or donors, and started playing around with, you know, being able to put in different categories or ages. So I tested out, for instance, a boosted post to women of a certain age who were into books and libraries, but also wine. And it was interesting just the reaction or engagement we got if I put in that category, which you may laugh, but it really resonated. So we, in fact, decided to do our first version of one of our fundraisers. We now have a fundraiser called Whiskey and Words, but it was basically the same thing around wine. And we sold out the event at a wine bar. And that was sort of the beginning of figuring out some of these different demographics and events or donor events. So that is sort of the birthplace of how we came up with this alcohol and book event. And still to this day, it is a successful fundraiser. and friend raiser, I would say, as well. So we continue to find new people who love books or poetry or written word and alcohol or doing that with their friends. So those are just some of those different parts and pieces. The lower image is some of the different educators that came in over the summer. And again, I think some of these imagery of teachers with books, showing that the teachers with their hands full of books or with bags of books really resonates versus a picture of empty bookshelves. It definitely, people react to a picture of an empty bookshelf, but it's not the same reaction we get or engagement when we show teachers with lots of books in their hands. So we've definitely learned along the way as far as what people will react to, what makes different groups click onto that donate button or sign up for a newsletter. It's definitely well worth taking some time to just figure that out versus saying no one's clicking on it and you can't figure out why. Excuse me, let me take a sip of coffee. Some of the social engagement, the other thing to remember or figure out is how you're not only going to post, but how do you engage people in your content? So if people are tagging you or vice versa, if you're tagging your program partners or perhaps a sponsor, you need to be ready to react to whatever they write back or to some of the public. Again, do it in the right voice. But sometimes that also gives you the opportunity to reach a larger crowd or group because you have tagged them, especially even potentially even a national group. So we tag often different publishers and authors and try and build, we're always trying to build that relationship with book authors and publishers. Likewise, give kudos to some of our sponsors or volunteers. And it's really important to us just as much as creating the post as engaging with the post and providing that goodwill between the two groups, so that also people might be reading all those different comments back and forth and seeing that we're giving time to thank people for sharing our photos or our work. So who can really help you with all of this? And I meant to write into here social media breakfast since I've learned so much from them. Some other groups that I have engaged over the years is SCORE, Add to Madison, and Design Like Mad. There's some work below that we've had some help from over the years when we were launching our bus. We've had a variety of help from different volunteers and board members, and sometimes just even stating on your social media, hey, we need help. Sometimes I always say people don't know unless you ask. So if you want help with your social media or marketing, sometimes it's really just stating it and not hoping someone will will ask. Sometimes they will, but I think it's always good to reach out and let people know when you do need help, or to see if some of these different groups might be able to help you. Some of the branding over the years has been really important to us, just to establish ourselves and make sure that people, when they do see us, know who we are and what we do. And that's a big part of our social media. So you'll see we'll always try and incorporate some kind of red tone into our social. So we do have a lot of red things at our office, obviously books. We do incorporate some other secondary colors into our brand. So in particular, this is sort of looking at some of these images that I pulled, the book boxes in front of our red reading bus happen to be that sort of cardboard, sort of khaki color. The other picture of us in the book center, we all just happen to be wearing our branded red. And it's got that khaki color floor in there. We didn't coordinate that on purpose, but we do sort of often all wear our branded colors. The image on one of the books that we love has that khaki color with the white and the red. And this happens sort of throughout so that ideally people really recognize the tone and look of our social media and can see who we are right away, or our big mural behind us when volunteers or donors or staff are working. They take photos. It's got our colors right in there. We don't even have to think about it. I just wanted to touch on newsletters just because if you are collecting information from donors or volunteers, I do think this is a really good way to connect with them, to give some people who want additional information about what you're doing. Not everybody is on social media. They may only read your newsletter or go to your website occasionally. So I think that's always nice, and you get to repeat some of that content, or vice versa, take your content from your newsletter and then use that for social media. If you've had all that work to put into your newsletter, it's great to be able to cut that up and then put it onto your social media or your website. Some of the other things around social media is definitely sort of this PR and media. So we try to work hard when we do have what we think is a good story to share that with the press. We've had some pretty good success in Wisconsin to do that, and to also think about not just TV, again, thinking about your demographics and who is passionate about your cause. So it might be someone who has a blog or a podcast or does read the newspaper, or maybe it's the best source would be a magazine. But again, just thinking about your cause and then also your demographics. And the content, here's just some of the different images that we do share, again, sort of sharing our brand voice, the excitement, things that we do know that come up. For example, people get really excited about numbers. So in that particular post, that was our 150,000th book, that people love seeing those types of things. So figuring out what gets your demographic excited, that's one of those keys to success, I believe. Planning content, if you have time or make time to think ahead of some of those things that may happen on a monthly basis, whether you have a particular event or it's a particular series where you might do a couple of posts per month, whether that's a quote or a thank you to your volunteers or sponsors. Those are things that are really helpful to help build your content, so you're not sitting down every day and thinking about what you need to do, or, oh my gosh, I need to do a Facebook post. So if anything you can do to make your life a little bit easier, and start planning out your posts. I'm going to skip through some of these, but we use a lot of the free design tools a lot. Canva was our best friend, or still is one of our friends, as we figured out some of our branding, and they make, with all of their templates, just so many things easier, whether it's one individual or a whole team being able to use it and share templates and designs back and forth. Scheduling content. I would say the main thing for us, and we still talk about it every week, is being flexible. So you can plan out all the content you want in the world, and things often come up that are unplanned. For us, we have staff out and about on a daily basis, dropping off books, picking up books, volunteers coming in that tag us that we would love to share out and not just have them share it. So we do have to be flexible and realize that sometimes things happen that we just want to have out in the world that we're not scheduled. So we try and do our best and have a whole sort of method of how we can do that when possible, so that when something comes up that is just that perfect situation, or we think a great message or a celebration, that we can get it out and we don't have to wait for that. So that sometimes takes flexibility from a variety of staff to make sure that we have the right actual information, so that the person who is doing the social media, if they just get a photo, they don't know who it is or what are we celebrating. It's got to be clear, but we've got that down. And I would say flexibility is a huge part of that. Still love that photo. And just to give you a couple more items on what's coming up for Madison Reading Project, We just launched our community book drive. So we are hoping to raise $40,000 and provide 12,000 kids with brand new books for the holiday season. We've got these big red bins, over 20 of them throughout Dane County. And so if you're interested in doing that and helping us out, you can definitely check out our website, or if you want to come and volunteer anytime. All of the links and information is on our website. For the fundraiser and community book drive, we're taking new or as like new as possible books. And whether you have them at home or if you want to figure out an easy way to get books to us, it's all on our community book drive page on our website. And finally, thank you. Looking forward to hearing if you have any questions at all. And if anybody else wants to reach out afterwards, please feel free to message me through any of our, our social media. I'm gonna scooch back out into unsharing.
Awesome. Thank you, Rowan. That was so great. We do have a couple of questions, but if people are out there and they've got lingering questions they haven't asked, now is the time. Put them in our Facebook and we'll get those over here. To start, we have a question from Lynn. She says, how exactly does your organization manage the permissions to get original photos of kids?
Yeah, that's a great question. If we're out and about at a public event, if kids are with their parents, then we will ask the parents specifically. Otherwise, we won't take pictures of kids. And also likewise, we'll ask volunteers not to take any photos of kids either. If we are at particular programs, such as like an after school program or something like that, the after school program may have already photo allowances. And that's something that we coordinate all ahead of time so that we know which programs we can take photos or not. That's really important to us to make sure kids are not photographed when it is not okay. So that's something we always try and clarify with any program partner or with a parent.
That's great. That's so important. Our next question is, do you use the free Google Ads program for nonprofits?
Yeah, actually, I delved into it a little bit and it's still on my task list. So I get probably a weekly reminder from them, but that is something we have not accomplished.
That is a whole different world to jump into, but I know there are some great trainings out there if people are looking to get into AdWords a little bit more.
Yeah, that's still on our list. We haven't figured everything out.
Right. Okay, I know you said social media helped you grow for volunteers, donations, partners, and employees. Are there certain channels that you use to achieve those goals, or are there platforms that are better for fundraising or some that are better for getting volunteers?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So it has been interesting, I think, certain imagery or sort of, like the difference between, for example, LinkedIn versus Facebook versus Twitter. We have found there's a lot of authors and publishers that are on Twitter that love being tagged, but that's a very different relationship versus trying to figure out how do we get local book donations. So often for book donations or for volunteers, we usually will use LinkedIn, Instagram, or Facebook, and just sort of figuring out where those different groups are. We do have a lot of volunteers, or hopefully we'll have a lot of volunteers come back, where we'd love to take a photo of them at the book center. They love to share that, we post it, they love to share it. Someone else sees them in a photo and says, hey, what were you doing at Madison Reading Project? Or I see that you donated. So that's definitely Facebook and Instagram, LinkedIn for us is really important. And likewise, that's been interesting when we have had some open positions for employees, how far our reach was. That was really interesting to me when we had people from quite far away reach out to us via social media saying that they had, they know who we are, they've seen our posts. So that was eye-opening that someone perhaps in like Iowa knew about us and wanted to come work here. So you never really know you might know some of the people who are following you, but you might not know, how far your reach actually is.
Yes, that's so awesome. I mean, like, great to connect with local community, but when you can reach beyond and just realize what impact your org is having, that's so awesome.
Yeah, that's definitely, I mean, the same with like our books for educators. When we were just thinking it would be for mainly teachers in this area. But I think that need is obviously so large, or you have perhaps a parent or a friend who's in this area that said, hey, Corinne, I know you're a teacher in Beloit, but this organization is offering free books to teachers. And suddenly you had all of this, organic sharing of our posts, and all these people filling out the application on our website, and that was definitely eye-opening. And we realized we just said stop sharing the post, or like at least not us, because how are we ever going to accomplish this huge waiting list now of teachers who want books, and what our budget was for the program would be far exceeded. So we had to, or just finishing up fundraising for that huge wait list. And next year, we'll obviously want to make sure, or try and make sure we've got as much funding as possible behind that. So if we did ever promote a post on it, we know we have a pretty good guess as to how many teachers might sign up.
Yeah. Okay, next I want to talk a little bit more about data and social media. So you mentioned looking at your boosted post data to sort of form that fundraiser, which how amazing that's so smart. Good job. Are there other interesting ways that you've used social media data to help achieve your either fundraising goals or organization goals?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the wine or alcohol with the demographic, that was interesting. We tested a variety of other things. I think that would actually be good to go back and just look at some of that. Definitely sometimes when we have had fundraisers specifically, for example, like around teachers, or if we're looking, for specific types of volunteer positions, thinking about who might be out there that's already following us or is that demographic. Sometimes that is, I think the people who are handling social media or are in engagement or fundraising, where they might say, wait a minute, we do have several, retired teachers that might be a great fit for that volunteer task. Or we do know that we have several people from this type of industry that might know something about that. So sometimes it's even just trying to sort of think about who could possibly be already in your demographics. And sometimes you don't know all of the answers. We don't know every single follower, as much as we would love to. But sometimes it's trying to sort of key in a little bit between the teams. Sometimes we do know a variety of people. We don't know everybody, but we may know some people. For example, we were putting up little free libraries, and we needed someone to specifically help us with putting in that post to make sure it's installed correctly. And that's not something I really want our staff to be doing. That's a whole nother skill set. So we did have to sort of think through, like, hey, who could help volunteer to help us put in little free libraries. And then we were able to do that. So it is sometimes just trying to sort of take that step back and think about it, especially for a nonprofit, or if you have very limited funds as far as who can help us with sometimes some of these really specific tasks that some people might love to do because they might think, I don't know anything about books, but I know how to install a little free library.
Right. And I think if you're someone who's managing your social media page, you see there's a person that likes every single post or comments on every single post. Like maybe it's worth reaching out to see if they want to volunteer or donate, or they clearly like the organization.
Exactly. Yeah. Or just even messaging that person or those particular people like, hey, we're thinking about a new program. What do you think? Sometimes in that way, reaching out to them. If they're doing that, they're opening all the newsletters. It's worth reaching out to them. Or if it's, a new type of, friends of your organization group. We also do have our own Facebook private group where we can just share more posts or things happening, or, hey, this is happening today, or we need a last minute volunteer to come in to help out. we got a huge delivery of books. So we try and use that Facebook group too, and that gives people just that a little bit more of like that insider information.
That kind of relates to one of the next questions we just got. Have you established an influencer group that you loop in advance to have them share certain posts or see if things are resonating with their demographic?
Yeah, so yeah, we started the Facebook group. We've actually probably had it for several years. And that's just sort of a nice way sometimes to have more of that conversation or share. We often share a lot of like memes around crazy book lovers and the stacks of books we enjoy. Or sometimes, like you mentioned, you know, like, hey, we're thinking about doing this. Would you be, is anybody interested? Or some of those last minute things that come up that we need feedback on or help, that really, I think, helps us. It is another task for our staff to help monitor or myself, but we have found it really helpful to give people their own page and that sort of that community piece, especially during COVID, I think too, where we really couldn't have people come to the center.
Yeah, it's an extra great way to connect. Our next question here is about Facebook ads. Excuse me. How do you handle the cost for Facebook ad campaigns or boosting posts? Do you do grant funding requests or gift funds, or what's your technique there?
Yeah, we've definitely, like I mentioned, I definitely tested it a lot at the beginning, and some things have grown from there. I think sometimes even putting like less than $50 on a particular post and just seeing if it will then, you know, if it gets enough momentum, will it just continue on and get enough engagement? Sometimes we do particular paid posts when it's perhaps, you know, like our annual report or a very specific event that we're trying to get people to purchase the tickets to our fundraiser. That type of thing. So it really, sometimes it's less money than you think it might be. And then just thinking if you are putting some money on that particular ad or boosted post, making sure that it's worded correctly, you know, like just trying to think it through before you rush that process, since you are putting a monetary amount on there. You can obviously still edit it or delete it out. But just thinking that through, but we've definitely had some success with that for fundraisers or events or just those big occasions. Like, you know, we're about to give out our 100,000th book, or we have, and probably in the next week or two, our 250,000th book, you know, and that's definitely worth celebrating. And like I said, people love those numbers with people holding up those books. So we know that people will love that and want to celebrate that with us. So we'd love for them to share it. And that's worth putting, you know, $25 on.
That's awesome. So we will definitely keep an eye out and be celebrating as you guys like reach closer to that goal.
Yeah.
I think maybe for our last question, we can end with something fun. Just what are you reading right now, or what are you excited about? What books?
Well, there's a lot of books in the book center. I often will borrow some books from our young adult section. I love reading those. Maybe it's just because I wouldn't even say it's a little bit simpler for me. I just love some of the current topics that are in there. I should have grabbed something off my shelf. I always usually, when I'm doing any kind of photo or TV interview or anything like that, I usually always hold a book because A, I like to talk with my hands, but B, it's really easy to show exactly what we're talking about if I've got particular books. So I always have books in my hands when I'm talking. But something I would have to say, I don't know if I have a particular book that I am reading right now. I returned all my books to the library or I changed them out here.
That's good. Well, yeah, we're getting excited for all the winter books in my house and start learning about snow and things like that. Well, yay. Well, thank you, Rowan, for joining us today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on Facebook Live. And remember, there's no December event, but stay tuned on our social channels to see how you can get involved in the Madison community this winter. Thank you, everyone.